Welcome to the Boneyard with Steve Robertson. As always, I am your good friend and host, Steve Robertson. Here on the Maroon Friday edition of the Yard, I hope it's a payday for you. I want good things to happen for you in your life. I do. And payday is like a fun day. For some of us, it's like the end of an anxious week, right? Because you know how it is. When I get paid, I got to do this and I got to do that. For others, it's like, you know what? It's just nice to have a little money in the bank. I can get out and enjoy life a bit. But I hope that's the case. And maybe it is for you bi-weekly or weekly wage earners. I don't know when your payday is, but they're typically on Friday. But I hope that you're having a great day. I hope that you're headed to Starkville this weekend to watch the Diamond Dawgs take on the Fightin Blue Hens of Delaware. First time we played them in Starkville. We did play them in the 2001 Regional in Columbus, Ohio. We didn't even play the host Buckeyes because they got eliminated. Thanks to Delaware, right? So we opened up beating Kent State. We beat Delaware in a winner's bracket game 4-3. And former Diamond Dog great Matthew Brinson provide all the offense that day. Bulldogs win 4-3. Brinson with a 3-run bomb and a solo shot in that game. So shout out to Matt Brinson. We texted earlier this week. I goes, hey, there's a shout out for you in my article tomorrow. Now there's a shout out for him on the show that which he listens to. But also, too, I think it's such a great thing to kind of remember those teams. You think, man, Steve, it's been almost 25 years, and it has. But it feels like yesterday to us because we still live those moments, right? So we're going to talk some baseball today. Of course, Mississippi State picked up a big win on the men's side. We'll take a look at some women's basketball as well. Look at the weekend ahead in the Southeastern Conference. So happy you're with us. Happy that we've had a pretty good run here as of late. We've got a lot of things to get excited about. We have. And you know how that is. You just like me, you guys make an emotional investment into Mississippi State sports. And you want to get some ROI, right? You want to get some return on your investment. And it's been a pretty good stretch. Maybe not what we want it to be long term, but it's just like, you know how it is, man. Like when we lose, man, like when I lose or we lose, like a little small part of me dies. And then when you win, you're reborn again, right? And so we're going to enjoy these days when we're winning because we know at some point we're going to lose again. I don't mean long term, but I hate losing, man. I hate losing more than I love winning. I hate it. I absolutely hate it. Maybe it's a character defect of mine. Maybe it's an insecurity of mine, but I hate losing. I hate for anybody to ever think they got the better of me or of us. I hate it. I do. I hate it. And quite frankly, I wish we had more people in the building that felt that way, right? It's just one of those things, man. Once you've won, you enjoy winning. But if you're a person that is prideful, like your good friend and host, I will do almost anything to avoid losing. Because I think it just says something about me. That's just how I feel. Maybe I'm weird. Maybe I'm not. But again, the fear of losing drives me so much more than the joy of winning. And it feels so good to win. And it's not because I feel some air of superiority. But it's just the sting of losing. It's just so bitter, right? And I know that it's, when we stack up some losses, that's how it feels. It's like, man, I'm putting so much into this financially and emotionally. You hate it. You do. And that's how I feel. And I think when it comes to Mississippi State baseball, and I wish a lot more of our programs were like baseball, but this is the tradition that our forefathers built for us. It's difficult to recalibrate and kind of work against your own traditions. But there is a bit of excellence, I guess. There is the quest for excellence in baseball. Like we expect to win. We invest in winning. We have a tradition of winning. And I think everything associated with Mississippi State should in many respects have the same type of expectation that baseball does. I know that's not realistic, but I think everything that we do should be to a standard. Everything. Winning and losing is part of competition. But I've got a critical eye at times. I'm not a negative person, but I've got a critical eye. And so when I see things that aren't right, I will voice those concerns. Not always to you. Sometimes I just get on the phone with somebody in the Bryan building and say, hey, I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but here's where we are. So I say that to say this, that, we can't just expect more. Like I read that a lot. We should expect more. What's the old adage? Expect in one hand and you know what in the other, and see which one fills up first. Our expectations have to be exceeded by our efforts. We have to put forth the effort to achieve great things. We can't just show up and say, I expect to win, and then you don't do the things that require you to win. It's just part of it. But when I walk around Duty Noble Field, I have a real sense of pride in who we are, what we have been, and what we are going to be. And I am eager for you guys to come celebrate baseball with us and celebrate your Mississippi Stateness this weekend in Starkville, Mississippi. While you're in town, swing by Bulldog Burger Company. They will cure what ails you. And there's some days, as well as I do, your whole day gets turned around with a quality meal. Right? You think to yourself, I just need to go eat, right? And I'm a person that gets hangry, right? The people in my life will tell you that. When I'm a little bit calorie deprived, I'm not very pleasant. But when I schedule the opportunity to go have some Bulldog Burger Company, I'm already excited to go, so my mood is already better, right? My mood is enhanced just knowing that I'm going to be able to partake of the goodness of Bulldog Burger Company. In many respects, it's kind of a mental health thing, right? Just knowing that I'm going makes me feel better. And then I go, and I've never walked out of there feeling worse than when I went in. I always leave there feeling better, properly nourished, and I feel like I've been well served. 3 great locations to serve you: University Drive in Stark Vegas, Gloucester Street there in Tupelo, Lake Harbor Drive in the Richmond Flowood area. Have the spring rolls as your appetizer that make you and everybody around you better looking. I had a couple at Duty Noble Field that stopped me Wednesday evening, listened to the show, and said, hey, when Bulldog Burger Company first opened in Tupelo, we went a couple times, so we liked it. But now, because we listen to the show, we go about once a week because it's become a staple. I don't remember your names, but thank you for your kind words. And the gentleman said, Steve, you don't know how you help people with the way you talk about life on the show. I get a lot of that. And not that we're going to turn the show into a Dr. Phil episode, but the reality of it is I just try to be transparent with you all. And Bulldog Burger Company, of course, helps me do that. And so I'm very grateful to them. Again, find your own favorites there. If you're a newbie to Bulldog Burger Company, try the Bulldog. You can't go wrong with that. You can't go wrong by doing right. And Bulldog Burger Company is always right. Bulldog Burger Company, the place where people go to meet. M-E-A-T. All right, before we get into our Delaware preview, I had a very meaningful conversation this evening with somebody that I feel like I've known my whole life. And I haven't. I haven't. My first actual conversation with them. And we got a little project we're going to work on. I'll have more details soon. And it's not a book, though eventually I think we could probably write a book together. But I'm going to be introducing you to somebody that I'm very impressed with. And thankfully, this person believes that I've done some good things. And so be looking for that. And I'll give you more details. But it's one of those conversations, like I talk to a lot of people. And I'm going to be honest with you guys. And this is just me being transparent. Sometimes I can't wait to get off the phone. I mean, I spend so much time on the phone. And sometimes you just start rehashing things. This is one of those conversations that it was just kind of an exchange of ideas, an exchange of information, an exchange of background, and kind of coming together. It's like, okay, we should absolutely work together on this. We're very similar. We've got a lot of similar backgrounds. We see the world the same way. I hope that you had that in your life, both personally and professionally. But it was a great conversation, and it just kind of validated my feelings that this project needed to happen. And for some of you, it won't be a big deal. For some others, you'll think this is super cool. But either way, it's a chance to kind of enhance the brand, but also to allow me to kind of introduce you all to somebody I think is incredibly talented. And they're also a Mississippi State person. How about that? Somebody that grew up in the Delta. But anyway, I don't want to give away too many hints. But we're finalizing some things. We'll have some announcements soon. But it's something that I've wanted to do for a long time. I just needed to find the right individual to work with. And I'm always kind of patient with that because I'm like, I don't have to do this. I want to do this, and I want to do it the right way. So got some cool stuff coming for you. Cool stuff. Let's jump into Delaware baseball here. And I spoke with Greg Mamola back on Wednesday, I guess. Yeah, Wednesday. Wrote the story on Thursday. And very impressive guy, man. And I don't know if you guys know this. Like, he's only been there a handful of years, and he's already like 6th all-time in wins at Delaware baseball. Now, to be fair, they had a coach who was kind of like their Ron Polk that stayed forever and a day. But Greg Mamola played at St. Bonaventure and then immediately went into coaching. Spent some time as the pitching and recruiting coordinator at Delaware in the early 2000s. Was part of the Westchester team that went to the Division II College World Series. Was at Cincinnati. And, we played Cincinnati in 2015. And then he was part of that 2016 team that came in here and won the Bulldog Classic. I can't remember if Cadence was promoting it back then, but the Florida Atlantic came in here and beat us twice. He was on that team. So it's not an unfamiliar location to him. And he tells me, I can't wait to see the new dude. But he has done some good things. He has been at Delaware since 2023. They've had a winning season every year, which is difficult to do in some of these mid-major conferences. When in my day, right, we called them minor conferences, but it hurt people's feelings, so we had to start calling them mid-major. I don't think there's anything wrong. Because we call the rest of it, this is a major conference. It's okay to have a minor conference. I don't know why we got so dadgum sensitive. But anyway, it's difficult to be a mid-major and consistently have winning records. And part of that is because it's so difficult to construct a non-conference schedule. Because more times than not, you're the team that's kind of being picked to be a rent-a-win, right? And so you got to think Delaware is a team, according to Coach, they want to play an SEC series every year because he wants his guys to see what college baseball is like at the highest level and maybe bring some things back and pick up some things in batting practice or whatever. You learn. But nevertheless, 3 straight winning seasons. Last year was the first year in the CAA that they didn't make the tournament and they had a losing conference record. And the CAA, they play a pretty good brand of baseball. Now, there's not a ton of talent because let's be honest, the best of the talent in the Northeast comes south or they go west. You don't have a lot of people that stay close to home. A lot of New Yorkers, and there's a good brand of baseball played in New York too. I mean, those kids grow up playing baseball, even though it's a little more of a niche sport at times because of the weather. But they grow up rooting for the Yankees and the Mets. You don't think Derek Jeter inspired some kids to pick up a glove? Of course. But Delaware recruits that area pretty heavily. But last year was the worst year of Coach's era there. 28-25. Finished 3 games above 500, but 3 games beneath it in league play. Very impressive guy, for sure. And I think he'll do some good things there. And we're going to talk a little bit about their pitching plans. And he's got some interesting analytical views to all of that. But you're kind of looking back at last year for them. It's ironic. They played Florida Atlantic. And don't you know those kids in Delaware were thrilled to get to Boca Raton, Florida, even though they didn't win a single game down there. But just to be in sunny Florida, they stayed down there and played FIU. I'll leave right now, right? Wouldn't we all? Well, then, like their first win of the year, their second win of the year, they go to Maryland and win a midweek game. And you know what kind of program Maryland has been. Very, very solid. But, Bryant baseball, we got Drew Irish from there. They beat those guys. They win that series up in Newark, Delaware. But you get a little closer to this thing, and they take care of Penn, one of those Ivy League schools, and that's a good series too, right? Just because of the fact it's not that far away from your recruiting base. But you kind of work through this stuff, and you begin to kind of realize, that this is a solid program. Not that I think they're going to come in here and challenge us to win the series, but it's an interesting deal. And last year they went to Elon, and they beat those guys 2 out of 3. Didn't work out for them this year. But it's just an interesting deal because I think they play a pretty good brand of baseball in the extreme Northeast. It's just a talent differential. I think the coaching's really good. It's just the talent is not there. That talent wants to go play big-time baseball or go pro. But, it's so interesting to kind of look at what everybody else kind of deals with in college baseball. And the coach told me that they had plenty of opportunities to practice. They were able to plow their field. And they had a lot of snow up there, but he said, hey, we can't use that as an excuse. We had plenty of times to get inter-squads together and get some outfield work done. Didn't work out. Well, they went to Elon, and they lost all 3 of those games. Now, the game 2, the first game of the doubleheader, because like us, they didn't play Sunday, they probably should have won the game. But they lose that game, so they get swept 0-3. And a lot of people look at those gaudy scores in games 1 and 2 and think, well, this should be a cakewalk for us. I feel very confident about winning this series. I do think in game 2, it could be a little tighter than we want. And then they get their first win of the year against LaSalle, which the Explorers now back as a college baseball program for the first time after a short hiatus. But they win that game 6-4. Had a couple of arms kind of step up in that game and do a good job for them. This episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. Sometimes it can feel like everybody else has it all together when it comes to their love lives. Whether you're married, dating, or single, the truth is most of us are still figuring it out as we go. No matter where you are in your own romantic journey, therapy can help you find your way, help you determine what you want, what feels heavy, and how maybe you could take some of the pressure off yourself. We get it. February's full of flowers, candy, candlelight dinners, stuffed animals, and of course, lots of talk about relationships and dating. You may feel left out. And no matter where you are, whether you're married, dating, or single, or just focusing on yourself, you're right on time. Therapy can help you find your way and see more clearly where you want to be. BetterHelp therapists work according to a strict code of conduct and are fully licensed in the United States. BetterHelp does the initial matching work for you so you can focus on your therapy goals. A short questionnaire helps identify your needs and preferences, and their 12-plus years of experience and industry-leading match fulfillment rate means they typically get it right the first time. But if you aren't happy with your match, switch. You can find a different therapist at any time from our tailored recommendations. BetterHelp. And I said, we'll get their pitching plan shortly. They do a pod pitching thing. So the guy that starts on Friday is back pitching again on Tuesday. But it's not like the old Jeff Brantley days of the mid-'80s. They only throw their guys about 3 to 4 innings. And then you go back and pitch on Tuesday. Well, then you go to Sunday, right? And so it gives guys a chance to pitch 2 times every 3rd week. And you don't overload these guys with big pitch counts. So it doesn't take them a full week to recover. And so it's an analytical-based system, but it's different than what we're used to here in the South. But it's interesting to kind of look at let's go to the Tuesday win, right? So ideally what they do is they have 3 pitchers ready to go, and they hope to get 3 innings from each guy. So Elias Conway, who will pitch against us on Sunday, he started, again, he was the Friday starter last week, and then pitched on Tuesday, 3 innings, 2 hits, 2 runs, 3 walks, 4 strikeouts. And then he gives way to another pitcher who goes 2 innings, and he actually pitched pretty well, but he had a few walks, didn't give up any hits or any runs, but he had 3 walks. So then they switched to another guy who goes 1 inning. Well, he gives up a couple runs. And then Holcher closes the thing out. 3 innings pitched, no hits, no runs, 7 Ks, no walks. And they win 6-4. And so, again, it's just kind of interesting to look to see how other people do this. Let's look at some statistics here. Now, some of these numbers are going to be pretty gaudy because it's such a small sample size. But probably the best bat, a guy that had his 200th hit as a college baseball player on Tuesday, is Evan Bolden. And he does it with a 2-run home run. What a way, right, to crush a milestone. But he's hitting .462, 13 at-bats, 6 hits. Those are all team highs. He got a couple doubles, tied for the team lead there, and 4 RBI, which also ties for the lead. But, yeah, he's getting it done. Also 2 walks and a hit by pitch. He's only struck out 2 times in 13 at-bats. So an interesting piece. Vinny Davis, listed as Vincent Davis, was at Manhattan 2 years ago and then missed last year, much of the year due to injury. He's hitting .385. Now, it's probably a little bit warmer in Elon than it is in Delaware, but just 3 tanks so far, just 3 home runs. We hadn't hit a ton either. It's still cold down here too. So there doesn't appear to be a lot of juice in the lineup. And what's interesting is outside of Bolden and Davis, only one other player on the team is hitting .300. Everybody else, man, is really struggling. The second highest, or the highest batting average below .300 is the guy hitting .250, and he's a 1 for 4. Matthew Minkler is a guy that's had 14 at-bats, which is one of the highest on the team. He's got 3 hits. He's hitting .214. But over half their lineup is hitting, 200 or less. It's tough to win. And I would venture to say that the pitching at LaSalle and the pitching at Elon, with all due respect, is not on par with what they're going to see from Mississippi State. Now, a lot of teams from up north like to run the bases. These guys have attempted 2 stolen bases. They're 1 for 2. They've allowed 6 for 6. And so maybe that's something you look at. It's a team they're hitting .200, and they're not getting on base a lot either. They're not just working the counts. As a team, the on base percentage is .283. So if we go out there and don't walk anybody, make people hit their way on, they're going to struggle to score. The numbers show that, but also too. I mean, we always talk about pitching's ahead of the offense this time of year. You can only begin to imagine what it's like for those teams in the north. They don't have as much BP, not real BP. All right, let's look at some pitching numbers here. We mentioned Elias Conway's. He's going to be on Sunday, but we'll go in order here. Okay, so the Friday starter is a guy that pitched last week on Saturday, and he moves forward. So Brady Plum is his name. Was a reliever last year. He went 1 inning against Elon. 1 inning, allowed 5 runs on 6 hits, all earned. Struck out 2, walked 1. And so he's going to go Friday. Might be a difficult proposition for him. Might be. I suspect it will be. Now, the guy that is intriguing to me, and you'll read more about him on Saturday, Doug Morose. Doug got a medical year, but he began his career at Towson State as a reliever. Wanted to be a starter, decides to go the JUCO route to kind of get a career reset. And he is the most prolific starter on that junior college team. Gets to Delaware. Really good 2024 season. And then in 25, he ends up having an ACL tear. And I understand that it did require a procedure, but it didn't sideline him maybe as long as it did some other guys. He pitched into the middle of March last year, and actually his last outing against Siena was the best of the year. And then that's it. They shut him down. Well, he's back. He's worked hard and got the medical red shirt. But he goes 4 innings, allows 6 hits, 4 runs, but he leaves as the pitcher of record with the lead. Like, he leaves, and then in the 5th, they score 3 runs to take the lead, and then the bullpen just couldn't close it. But it was a very competitive game. And Morose is a guy, too, that can throw 4 pitches for strikes. And, again, guys that can mix and match like that are difficult. So don't be surprised if the Saturday game is a little bit tighter than you want it to be. We mentioned Elias Conway, already 2 starts under his belt. He's already got 6 innings right? Because they only go 3. And they will extend the guy if he's doing well, if the pitch count is low. But that's kind of what they do. But he's 0-1 on the year, took a loss at Elon and got a no decision against LaSalle in the game they won. But again, 6 innings pitched, ERA of 4.50. And 5 hits, 7 runs, only 3 of them earned though. 5 walks, 7 strikeouts. You'd like that to be a little bit better. But the batting average against is just 200. So that may be something to watch too. Now, I just don't think, with the analytic numbers that we have so far, I just don't think it's going to be on par with what we normally see. And all due respect to Alcorn, we're going to see better pitching than we saw Wednesday night. And again, there's no point recapping that full game. There's just not. 19-0, which is kind of ironic because now we're 19-0 all time. But man, what a great job by Vitas Valinkas. Didn't play last weekend at all. And you can't keep him off the base path. Guys, he's hitting 1,000. The only time they got him out, it was a sac fly. And then he walks. And then Blake Beavis hits the bomb. And so, again, we're not going to go back and recap that game because there's just no point. But what we have seen in the midweek offensively is what we have expected from Mississippi State. And sometimes it's more difficult to hit bad pitching. Because, number one, the velo is not what you're used to. It messes your timing up. And you're so desperate to hit at times. You got guys throwing the ball in the dirt and over your head. And you got to hit first mentality. You got to be disciplined. We will have an opportunity to see better pitching this weekend and have better weather. So I do expect to sweep the series. But I do think it's going to be an interesting game on Saturday. I think we'll pitch it well. I don't think it's – but don't be surprised if you win that game 4-0 or 5-1, something like that, right? With Tomas Valinkas going that day, McPherson's on Friday, Foster goes to Sunday. I love the matchup, right? Because Tomas was great for us last weekend. Even, dealing with kind of a calf strain. But I think it kind of works in our favor here. That we've got one of our better pitchers going against one of their better pitchers. And I don't think it'll be a traditional, pitcher's duel. And again, he's not going to work the second half of the ball game. I think once we get into that pin, we'll be able to stretch him out a little bit. But, as a staff, it's an 8.18 ERA. And again, probably, the guys that threw on Tuesday that did a good job for them will be available through this weekend. And you look at this Jackson Holter kid, he's 1-0, 5 2/3 of an inning, allowing less than just barely under a hit per, but 10 Ks against 2 walks. That's pretty good numbers, for a reliever. Sure it is. But, but staff-wide, man, it's a mess. And a lot of it's because of the starting rotation. 37 Ks against 31 walks as a staff. They've allowed 30 earned runs in 33 innings. When you're giving up about a run per, it's tough to win. So those are my feelings about this team. And to be quite honest with you, I think Hofstra is probably going to be finishing ahead of these guys. But I don't think they're going to give us a lot, right? I don't think they're going to go around and boot the ball around as much as they did last weekend. And I think they're going to be a team that may actually get swallowed up a little bit by the atmosphere, right? They've never been anywhere like this. And they went to Ole Miss a couple years ago, but none of these kids were on the team. I guess it was in 23. And so, and even with that, the crowds that we have will surpass what they had in Oxford. And I think Saturday will be a huge day at the ballpark. And we look forward to you guys coming out. But, feel good about this one. And then if we get through this one as we expect, you got Austin Peay on Tuesday before we head to Arlington. And so to give you a programming note, your Friday show is going to be recorded on Thursday next week. Because I'm going to be traveling Thursday. So I'm going to get up Thursday morning, record the show, and kind of get you ready for the weekend. And get on the road to Arlington. Because we play Friday morning, 11 a.m., which is kind of interesting that this Sunday we're going to play 11 a.m. It's like, are we testing ourselves? But I'm eager to get out there and eager to see how we can pull things together. But we got 4 games to play before we get there. And how cool is it going to be in Globe Life, right? Super cool. And it's great for the kids. It's great for the program. But we're there to win ball games, not just to take pictures and keep the gram fresh and get souvenirs. We are there to win ball games. So hopefully we can go into that event undefeated. And I have had some people on the message board talking about some things that they didn't like on a D1 baseball podcast. Here, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. You just keep winning games. That's all that counts. It's not a beauty contest. It's not an opinion poll. We have a tournament at the end of the year. You make the tournament, you win the tournament, you're declared the national champions. I mean, and again, this isn't me taking a shot at Ole Miss, but like that 2022 team, right? How great they were expected to be, and the last team in the tournament, and they won it. They did. So we don't just have this opinion poll to determine a national champion. We have a tournament. And so that's all that counts. Let's get in there with the best position possible, and then we'll see what happens. And if you've seen what this Bulldog offense has done the last 3 nights, I guess we've had double-digit hits in 3 consecutive games, you're starting to see what we expected. And I think that continues this weekend. We're going to face much different pitching next weekend, so we got to figure some things out between now and then. But, I think this weekend is one that you're going to enjoy baseball at Dirty Noble Field. All right, time for our close with Blair Player of the Day, right? It's pretty obvious who it's going to be, right? Let's thank Blair, our friend. We love Blair. We do. And maybe you don't tell him enough. I do. I tell all of you, too. I love you. I love Blair. Blair's my buddy. And been my compatriot in recovery for a long time. Love Blair, man. And love what he can do for you. His phone number is 601-500-2344. 601-500-2344. Blair's been in the mortgage industry 25 years. Nobody stays in the mortgage industry 25 years, especially if you don't know what you're doing. Thus, the name closewithblair.com. He can get you to the closing table when so many others can't. He knows how to construct loans to give you the best chance of approval. And you know what? If you're not ready, he'll tell you you're not ready, and he'll tell you how to get ready. That's almost as important as anything else. If you've never gone through this process before, you don't fully understand how complicated it could be. You need somebody to kind of hold your hand through all this, and that's Blair. Be sure and let him know that you heard about him on the show. Whether you're looking for your first home, your next home, or your retirement home, the only name to know is Blair Chandler when it comes to mortgage loan origination. Your close with Blair Player of the Day? Got to be Josh Hubbard, right? And we'll talk a little more about the game later in the show. But, man, with Josh Hubbard, a record-breaking performance. And it felt like he was going to all be for naught. But Josh is like, no, I got you. And that big 3 at the end, and then, of course, that emotional explosion. When he's standing there by Keyshawn Murphy and he goes, you don't leave state. And, man, that's good to see, right? Because we really want him back next year. So, Josh Hubbard, your close of Blair Player of the Day. All right, time for today's Top 10 list. Is always brought to you by Calido Guitars. That's Calido Guitars.com. A lot of guitar on our list today. But I've got a guitar from Calido Guitars. I've got a guitar stand. I've got a gig bag. I got all kind of goodies from Calido Guitars. And the reason that I do is because they are my guitar shop. They are the Mississippi State Guitar Shop. And so whether you're looking for a beginner's instrument, an intermediate, or even a professional grade instrument, you can find it at CalidoGuitars.com. Whether you're looking for accessories, whether you need gig bags or cases or anything like that, they can provide everything you need other than the practice time to make you a better player. You can get a classical guitar, you can get a banjo, you can get a ukulele. They are a stringed instrument store, but they specialize in guitars, and they're guitar players themselves. So they know what we want, right? And some of us aren't skilled enough to fully appreciate the things we want. We just want a good quality instrument that can kind of make some racket for us. You can find that at Calido Guitars. And they're going to give you some incentive to do business with them. Promo code is BSR. We want to keep it simple. Beautiful Steve Robertson, right? Simple as that. That entitles you to a series of discounts, not just a discount, a series. Now, right out of the gate, a 10% discount off their already low price. That's the Ken Folks discount. No sales tax unless you live in a state of Texas, and no shipping. In addition to that, they'll make a 5% donation to the Bulldog Excellence Fund. They were curious in the beginning, what's the best way for us to kind of partner with you, Steve, and support Mississippi State? And this is what they came up with. It wasn't my suggestion. They're Bulldogs through and through. So throw some business their way. They'll do an incredible job. Exemplary service, man. So whether you're calling in, you're stopping by, or you're ordering online, use that promo code BSR. Because when you win, they win, and Mississippi State wins, which means we all win. KalitoGuitars.com. You got to love it. All right. So John messages me. John is from outside of Escatawpa, Mississippi. I didn't know that Escatawpa had suburbs, but apparently it does. And said, hey, I knew those guys growing up. And Steve, I was very touched by your comments about Brad. And we're all feeling it down here. And it is one of the most traumatic celebrity deaths that I've been through. And said, it sounds like it was a difficult one for you. And it was. And I didn't know Brad like that. I just knew his music and knew his spirit. And he was a fellow Mississippian. And it makes me very sad. And speaking of making me very sad, we have learned, as I record this show Thursday evening, that our friend and colleague, Wes Rucker, who worked for years with our Tennessee site at 247 Sports, passed away after a car accident Thursday night. And I understand there's going to be an official announcement in the morning, but it's already made the rounds in the media. I'm actually in shock. I can't believe it. And, Wes is a guy that at times wore his feelings on his sleeve on social media. You never had any doubts about where he stood. And he and I didn't always agree about the Tennessee State stuff. But, man, the guy was always there when I needed him. When I needed information about Tennessee, he was happy to provide it or provide a phone number of somebody that could get it for me. And I hope that I was as helpful to him as he was to me. So our thoughts and prayers go out to Wes and his family. And, it's just a devastating event. And for those of us that work in sports media that travel a lot, it's kind of your worst fear. You want to be able to get the car home, right? You want to be able to be there for your wife, your family. And it's a difficult deal. It is. And so for all those Tennessee fans out there that depended on Wes and loved Wes to provide them with the latest and greatest information about Tennessee Volunteers, we validate your loss. We validate your pain. Even if you didn't have a personal relationship, you felt like you did. And we've all gone through some of that. We have. But I wish the best for them. And it's ironic that happens when we get this message from John about celebrity deaths. And so as morbid as it may sound, I don't want it to come across this way. These are the top 10 most impactful celebrity deaths in music of my lifetime. And I rank them based on the impact that I felt. This is not in order of talent or anything like that. It's just, the impact it had on me. And Lane Staley didn't make the list. And I'm sharing this with you just because I think it's important. I wasn't shocked when Lane Staley died. I don't think any of us were. Now, it hurt, and it still hurts. And the book, I still got to take it to the spa. This Angry Pen of mine really kind of drives it home what we've lost. So many people talk about Kurt Cobain, the voice of a generation. Absolutely not. And you're welcome to love Nirvana, but anytime that Kurt is compared with his contemporaries as a vocalist, he's not going to fare well. And I'm not being a snob or a Nirvana hater, but I didn't put Lane on the list just because of the fact it wasn't shocking to me. Number 10 on the list, Chester Bennington. And I love Linkin Park, but to be honest with you, I had kind of moved on a little bit, just a little bit. And so it was a shock and it hurt, but I I didn't have maybe the same emotional connection, right? So we're going to go with my favorite Linkin Park song, Paper Cut, at number 10. Number 9 is Doug Hopkins from the Gin Blossoms. One of the saddest stories I could ever tell you. Those of you that don't know, he was a hopeless alcoholic. He was a person that was constitutionally incapable of being honest with himself. And he wrote incredible songs. And the album New Miserable Experience by Gin Blossom is his entire creation. And he got kicked out of the band because of his self-destructive behavior. And then shortly after he finally got his gold record, he decided to end his life. And so I've actually reached out to his sister years ago to share with her the impact that his music has had on me, but also, too, I wanted her to know that he's not forgotten. So with the Gin Blossoms, we're going to go with Hey Jealousy, the song that really started it all for so many of us. Number 8, this is like Lane Staley, but it's a little bit different, a little bit. It's Freddie Mercury from Queen. And Freddie was one of my first rock heroes, one of my first. And to see a guy perform and sing the way that he did was very inspirational to me. And to me, there's never been a better frontman than Freddie Mercury. And when he died, it was very difficult. And because you feel like a part of your childhood has died, right? And that's how so many people feel about Chester. But for me, as a child of the 70s and early 80s, that's how it felt when Freddie died. Even though we had heard he had been sick, it was still gut-wrenching. So Killer Queen from Queen is number 8. Number 7, it's Steve Clark from Def Leppard. We almost lost Rick Allen much earlier. And of course, he learned to play drums one-handed, which is still remarkable to me. But Steve Clark, another guy that had a lot of problems with alcoholism and a lot of problems with depression. And the song and Emotion from Tesla is dedicated to his memory. And if you didn't know that, that's one of the reasons that you can still hear him play. They kind of play that Def Leppard-esque type riff. That's a shout out to Steve. But we're going to go with Photograph from Def Leppard at number 7. Number 6, we lost Alan Collins when I was still in high school, but we lost Gary Rossington here just a couple years ago. And it's still one of those things that stays with me, right? Even though you don't have a personal relationship, you feel like you do. Because I grew up with Skynyrd. And my earliest memories is my uncle playing guitar to Leonard Skynyrd or playing Leonard Skynyrd on the record player. It's been a part of my life as long as I've known what life was. And when we lost Gary Rossington, who I think is one of the coolest guys to ever play guitar, it really bothered me. And Dan and I were together, and I had to push it out there. I said, man, I'll never forget this moment. I got an Alan Collins shirt that I wear with pride. I probably need to get a Gary one too. Number 5. Another one more recent, Ace Frehley, as you guys know, he like all these hair and tattoos, it's all his fault. And I've told him as much. And I'm so glad I got to see him with his band in Tupelo with Alice Cooper. It was great. I was down front, and I still got a bag of stuff that he gave me. I still need to find a place to put all that stuff. But that was a tough one, man. I loved Ace, and I always loved Space Ace, my favorite member of Kiss. And I don't like how he was treated, to be honest with you. It made me view the band differently. I still love and respect them, and I still remember the nostalgia from it all. But I think Ace and Peter could have been treated better. Number 4, we've already talked about him, but it's Brad Arnold. And maybe it's because it's so fresh. But I think a lot of it's because he's a Mississippian. And he did a lot of good with his life. And I think the world is a darker place without him. So, could have gone a lot of different directions here. But we're going to go with Kryptonite is your number 4 song. The gateway song for so many. Number 3, Prince. And I remember the day that it happened. I remember where I was sitting. I remember getting the news and seeing the news and not believing the news, thinking there's no way this is right. This got to be a mistake. And then ultimately it was confirmed. And immediately, like all Prince's music, went to like number 1. Like the charts were flooded with Prince music. And I saw recently somebody else play a video that I'd never seen of Prince I think it was on Arsenio Hall. I'd never seen Prince sing that with that level of sophistication. Of course, we know the movie, we know the Super Bowl performance, but something about that Arsenio Hall performance really stood out to me. So number 3, Prince, Purple Rain. Number 2, man, it's difficult to imagine a life without Ozzy. And again, I think we had a chance to begin the grieving process when they had the Back to the Beginning show. And some people from Mississippi that I know went, and I'm very jealous. And I think it's a super cool thing they went. But instead of going with one of the more traditional songs, I'm going to go with something a little bit deeper in the catalog that always fires me up. And it's Ozzy's I Don't Want to Stop at number 2. And number 1, the most profound celebrity death of my lifetime. And I think a lot of it is because of the fact that I really began to hear Chris Cornell and Soundgarden when I was in drug rehab. I had listened to it, but I'd never really heard it. I'd never taken the time to understand the messaging and the phrasing. So we're going to go with Outshined from Soundgarden off Bad Motorfinger. And to this day, it is one of those things that I can get sad about pretty quick if I want to, And we talked about Chris recently on the show, and a couple of you kind of agree that maybe there's something to these conspiracy theories. But we're going to agree to let Chris rest in peace, and hopefully justice will be found in this life or the next. But love Chris, miss Chris, and wish that Audio Slave would put out what they have and Soundgarden would put out what they have so we can have a few more final pieces of the Chris Cornell catalog. If you have ideas for the top 10 list, reach out, let us know. Best way to do that is to hit us up on X. You can find Roy Samanti, my friend, at Dogmatic67, DAWGMATIC67. Our great lists are under Spotify under that same handle. Just subscribe, okay? And you can find me on all forms of social media at Scout Steve R. All right, next segment of the show brought to you by Campus Bookmart, a Starkvillian institution. Man, we love them. And why do we love them? Because they have the things we want, right? That's more Mississippi State merch. Nothing makes us happier when it's a birthday, a Valentine's, Father's Day, Mother's Day, Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, Amerigo Vespucci Day, whatever gift buying occasion that you have. If you buy a Mississippi State fan more Bulldog stuff, you're going to win, right? Simple as that. We want more Mississippi State stuff, whether it's apparel, gift ideas, things to detail out the office, the fan cave, whatever. We want it, and you can find it at Campus Bookmart. Stop by and see their smiling faces, and next time you're in Starkville, you'll be glad you did, right? It's important that you go by and support Starkville businesses when you're in town. We need your support. But the reality of it is the best selection of Mississippi State merchandise in the known universe is at Campus Bookmart. If you can't make it to town, or perhaps game day is a difficult shopping day for you, visit them on the wide world web, courtesy of Al Gore's Internet, at campusbookmart.net. By being a loyal Boneyard listener, we'll give you a phrase that pays. That is BSR. That stands for Beautiful Steve Robertson. That gets you free shipping on all orders over $75. Any order less than $75, absolutely incomplete. And again, on your way to Duty Noble Field, swing through there and pick up some new M over S apparel. You probably need to retire that old ball cap, right? I know it's probably your good luck cap, but it's probably time for a new one. And of course, you can pick up a cooler while you're there too. Save yourself a little time and trouble when it comes to concessions. All right, Mississippi State men have evened their record now at 13-13. Now, we had greater expectations than that, but we're not going to look that and be difficult about it now, because the Bulldogs putting together some pretty big basketball here down the stretch. You knock off Ole Miss. We played really well against Ole Miss, and stretches played really well against Auburn. As you guys know, we got up by as many as 18 in this ball game and had to come from behind late. State's up 16 at the break. We get outscored by 10 in the second half, but still win by 6. And there was a sequence late that was really, really significant, as you guys know. We picked it up defensively. When they pulled ahead, like many of you, I felt like, man, this is going to absolutely stink. This is going to hurt. It's going to hurt bad. That's how I felt. It did, but there's time left. Maybe we can get it done. We're down 5 late. And it's like, man, we just need to get a basket here. And next thing you know, we get a 3-point basket from Josh Hubbard from the corner. And they had really, really kind of corralled him up pretty good late and kind of kept it interesting. But we're down 82-50. I guess Jaden Epps hit that 3. Yeah. We're down 82-77, pardon me. And then Epps hits the 3. We end up tying the game at 82. Next thing you know, Hub hits the big 3 with 44 seconds to go, right? We're down 83-82. We needed to get the lead back, and we get the big bomb there from the corner, and it just felt so good. And then Achor, who has played inspired basketball down the stretch, comes up with a big block. Jabari McGee corrals it, and next thing you know, they have to foul him, and we make our free throws. And from there, it was all academic as the Bulldogs win 91-35. Made those free throws down the stretch, and has that not been an issue with us this year? We had a chance to knock off Ole Miss earlier this year, couldn't close out our free throws. Multiple times this year, we have been poor in pressure situations. So we come through last night. A big win for State. Auburn falls to 14-12 and 5-8 in the SEC. Just one game ahead of us overall, but they may get the benefit of another win. Depends on how they view this Bediako stuff. But, State right there with Auburn. Not the year the Tigers expected at all. Keyshawn Hall from Auburn was great. We could admit that, especially down the stretch. He has 29 points, 10 rebounds, played all 40 minutes of that ball game. He was great. And I don't know if I expected him to play as well as he did, but he was great. Keyshawn Murphy makes one shot, and gets 7 points because he made 5 free throws. Attempted a couple threes, didn't get it. Did pull down 11 rebounds, but maybe not the homecoming that he expected to have. Pettiford, we knew that he was going to be a factor. He had 21 points in the ball game. And Auburn a good job on the glass, and it really felt like that there was a stretch there early in the second half. We just couldn't make a shot, couldn't get a rebound. They out-rebounded us by 7, but down the stretch, we got the rebounds that mattered most. And Josh Hubbard, 46 points. A career high, a Humphrey Coliseum record, 10 3-point baskets. He's 15 of 27. Got ice cold for a while, but down the stretch, and that's what happens with good shooters, to let them shoot their way through it. But Hub also 9 big rebounds. Handed out 3 assists, no turnovers, and then 2 steals on top of it. The best performance of his career. Jaden Epps, maybe not the offensive night we needed, but some clutch shots late, 13 points. And then where will we be without Sean Jones, who outstanding on the defensive end and pitched in 12 points offensively and had 3 big blocks. 3. Quincy Ballard, 6 points for him. Achor just 5, but it felt like Achor was around everything, especially on the defensive end. And then Jabari McGee, 4 for 4 in the final minute from the free throw line to put that game on ice. And again, what a wild game. 50% shooting for the Bulldogs. We shot almost 58% the first half, 41 the second. And your shot selection might have been off a little bit, but give Auburn a little bit credit for forcing some more difficult shots. And, of course, Hub was wide open, it felt like, early in that game. 11 of 16 from beyond the arc in the first half. Just 5 of 14. And some of those Josh rushed a little bit, and there were other times we tried to get other people involved, and they just couldn't convert. And stayed 13 of 17 from the line. But looking back at this, man, the lead changed hands 8 times. And it felt like there for a while we were just going to blow them out. And how fun would that have been? But gratefully, we did not ruin a historic performance with a loss. And now you begin to think about, what else may be possible for the men. Well, we're going to travel to South Carolina on Saturday. So let's take a little time and talk about the Gamecocks. Considering how well we're playing now, I think many of you are kind of optimistic about us going and playing well at South Carolina. And a lot of teams have. So why don't we just join the party? The Gamecocks are 11-15 overall and 2-11 in SEC play. They've lost 7 straight. They are primed for the picking. Probably won't be a hostile crowd either. But, it started out well enough for them. They get North Carolina A&T early. They slept by Southern Miss 83-79 in overtime. Then they get the Presbyterian 81-61, blowout Radford. They go to the Skechers Greenbrier tip-off and lose both of those games to Butler and Northwestern. So that's when kind of reality sets in. Maybe we're not as good as we hoped. They get Charleston Southern. They lose to Virginia Tech as part of the ACC-SEC Challenge. Lose that game in overtime. And then this non-conference schedule outside of those, kind of made-for-TV games was not very challenging. They get Stetson. They get the Citadel. And then they lose to Clemson. So it's like every time they play like a P4 team or a team that has a pulse, they struggle. They bounce back, get SC State, they get Albany, then they get an SEC play. And then this is when things get really wild. They lose to Vandy. No shame in that. Vandy's been good this year. They go to LSU and win, and it seems like everybody has in the Matt McMahon era. They win that one by 10. They lose at home by 5 to Georgia. They get blown out at Bud Walton, 108-74. They go to Auburn, lose by 4 there. So competitive game. They find a way to beat Oklahoma. And, of course, Oklahoma has not lived up to expectations this year. But they get that game at home. They go to A&M and get shelled 92-69. And it got even worse against Florida in Columbia, 95-48. LSU in the return game goes to Columbia, wins that game in overtime, 92-87. They travel to Texas, lose by 9. Missouri rolls into Columbia, the Battle of the Columbias, 78-59 is your final. They go to Alabama, lose by 14. They go to Florida, lose by 14 as well, and now they'll take on Mississippi State. 1 p.m. tip on Saturday. So looking at this team, and again, 7 straight, that's tough. In true road games, they're 1-7, and of course those 2 neutral site games makes it 1-9 away from the home venue. You've won 1 game on the road the entire year. It's tough. At home, it's been a different story. And again, 10-6 at home. But I'd love to have them here, but we got to go up there. I just don't think it's going to be a very raucous environment. And that's one of the things you want this time of year, right? You want to be able to go play in environments that are a little more opponent-friendly, and that looks like it'll be the case. Let's look at inside the numbers here. Kind of get a better feel of what this Gamecock team is about. And, of course, the numbers in the box scores are going to reflect much of what we already know about the team based on their record. What's interesting about them, too, is first halves have been the better half. Now, they score with a little bit better frequency, but they tend to wear down. They've outscored teams in the first half by 20, and then opponents have outscored them by 17 in the second half, and then in overtime it's 39-35. It's so interesting. They've scored 1,973 points, given up 1,974. Meechie Johnson, we know him well. He's been around this league for a long time. Still kind of leading the show up there, 16.9, right at 17 points a game. They've got 4 guys scoring in double figures now. Yeah, four guys. Kobe Knox is a guy, too, that's been around, and he started most games for them, all games this year. But Eli Ellis, right there, 9.2 points a game. So the scoring is rather balanced outside of Meechie Johnson, and he's had some good games against us. But it's so interesting we talk about the point differentials. They're scoring exactly the same amount, right at 76 points and giving up 76 points, what you'd expect, right? It's incredible how the numbers were so reflective. They've been pretty good perimeter defense-wise, though. And they're going to have hands all in Josh's face. Their opponents are shooting right at 32% from beyond the arc. South Carolina shooting just over 30. They've been good at the free throw line, almost 79%. Been out-rebounded about 3.5 boards a game. And so when you got a team that's not shooting well and not rebounding well, chances are you're going to lose a lot, and they have. Field goal percentage as a whole, about 44%, giving up 45%. And again, that's what losing teams do, right? I mean, the numbers reflect it. But getting out-rebounded coupled with poor shooting leads to bad results. It's not a complicated formula. Don't give them wide open looks, make them work for it, and then get ready for that offside rebound. They've turned it over a good bit too, almost 260 times. They've generated some turnovers too, but a lot of that too is, non-conference was so weak. But they've had their pockets picked a good bit, giving up just over 6 steals a game. Blocks, not in their favor either. 62 for South Carolina, 95 for their opponents. But when you start thinking about, you get into conference play, you expect things to kind of change a little bit. Meechie Johnson has actually been better in conference play, averaging almost 20 points a game. And then Kobe Knox, we talked about him. He started all 13 SEC games. He's upped his game too. Elijah Strong upped his game as well. Eli Ellis is about the same. But reality of it is, you stop Meechie Johnson, you play good defense. You don't have to be great defensively, but good defense. And you get on the glass and rebound, you're going to win this game. And then, again, we all want to believe, right? We want to believe. But you start thinking about, the possibility of an NIT berth maybe. Maybe. I love the fact that we're becoming more of a difficult out straight. And again, you go back to the Tennessee game. Yes, we lost that game by 9. However, we showed a lot of moxie in that game, had that big 18-0 run. And if we hadn't dug such a big hole, we may have won that game too. So we're playing better. You get a chance to win the South Carolina game, and there's not a whole lot left, but there's some booger bears down the stretch, as my grandma used to say. You got to go to Alabama. That's tough. Missouri, obviously that's a game that we should be able to win. We got to go to Florida. That's going to be tough. And Georgia coming in. So just 5 games remaining in the regular season. And so you start thinking you'd have to probably sweep, right? Go 10-8 in the league. Maybe go 4-1. If you get to 500 and you get the right 4 wins down the stretch, maybe you could sneak into the big dance. You probably need to win a game or 2 in the SEC tournament. But you finish 500 in this league, you're at best or at worst a bubble team. And so no matter how it comes out, I'm just going to cheer for the Bulldogs every time they take the court. And I'm going to hope that Mississippi State wins that intercollegiate basketball game. And then we'll see where the chips fall at the end of the year. But we just have to take this thing, as we discussed for weeks now. You just got to take it a game at a time, an opponent at a time, and at times a possession at a time. But, man, we have had some exciting basketball in the last week. And, again, there's so many people out there that have been so down on this team. And I understand it. I do. And as I've shared many times, if anybody on this campus deserves a mulligan, it's Chris Jans. But I love the fact that this staff and this team have not given up. And I think that says a lot about the culture that Chris Jans has built here at Mississippi State. I think it says a lot about Josh Hubbard being out there on a 500 team, yelling at the top of his lungs that you don't leave state, you don't leave state. That's got to make you feel great. It makes me feel great, and I hope it does for you as well. All right, on the women's side, disappointing result tonight. And that's the thing with this team. It always feels like we get a big win somewhere, we start feeling good about things, and for some reason we just can't keep the wind in our sails. Ladies dropped the ball game tonight to Florida. Now 18-9 overall, 5-8 in the conference. Let's make sure this is all updated. It appears that it is. But, disappointing because we really felt like Florida was a team we should be able to get, especially at our place. Man, we lose this game by 15. I mean, it's like it just never really felt like we were going to win the game. Florida comes out red hot and outscores us by 10 in the first period, makes it 24-14. They build upon that and add a 3-point differential in the second as they outscore us 19-16. And you look up and it's like, holy smokes, we're down 13, but we're at home. You needed a big run there in the third period. We outscore them by 2. It's just not enough. And so you go to the fourth quarter with a double-digit deficit. The crowd's just not enough to help you overcome that. So Florida advances to 16-12 and 4-9 in the SEC. State drops to 18-9, 5-8 in the SEC. We needed that win in the worst way. Absolutely needed it in the worst way. And we didn't get it. Kind of looking at the numbers, we talked about Liv McGill. We knew that she was going to be the straw that stirred the drink. Well, she played all 40 minutes and scored 30 points. She had 10 turnovers too, right? That's the thing too. You think about that aspect of it. You got to be able to go out there and make some things happen. We talked about that a little bit in the preview, is that she does have a propensity to turn the ball over. She had 7 assists and a steal, but she turns it over 10 times. So it's a net negative. Lala Reynolds with 19, and Mariah O'Neal, Shaquille O'Neal's daughter, with 10. She also had 5 steals and 7 rebounds. But, it's just not good. But, they came out absolutely red hot, 56% from the floor in the first, 50 in the second. And, again, third quarter, we kind of picked it up a little bit defensively, just couldn't cash in on the offensive end. Madison Francis leads the Bulldogs with 20 points, 7 of 13 from the floor, 13 rebounds. She's got to be in contention for the SEC Freshman of the Year. I don't think she'll get it because we haven't won enough games, but she'll certainly be on the all-freshman team. Favored Nwadozie with 8 points, 5 rebounds for her. Jaleel Lampley with 11 rebounds, 6 points. And from there, the scoring just wasn't there off the bench. It just didn't work well for us. Bench points, just 11. Yeah, that just can't happen for us. 34 points in the paint, 12 off turnovers, and that's including one player turned it over 10 times, and we could only convert that into 6 baskets. I mean, that's, you're not going to win. And the lead changed hands just 4 times. But, this is one of those detrimental losses. Doesn't mean that we're out of the tournament, but we certainly haven't left ourselves any margin for error. And now the SEC tournament becomes a much bigger part of the equation. So we're going to head down to Texas on Sunday, then A&M on Thursday, and we close it out at home against LSU. And we were in a situation here. We needed to get a split in the Final Four. I guess theoretically we still can. It's just not expected when you've got 2 top 10 teams on your schedule. And then A&M pulls a big upset tonight. So they're not quitting. They're not mailing it in. So we're going to have to figure this thing out. But, we go to Greensboro. We may be in a position we got to go win some games. And you probably needed to get one of those anyway. The hope is that you probably will get somebody that is somewhat comparable from a talent standpoint, a record standpoint, and maybe you can get a win, maybe 2 in the tournament. Again, we've missed a golden opportunity to make life a lot easier on ourselves by losing this game to Florida and losing the manner in which we did. It's just like we took that punch in the first quarter and just never really got up off the mat. That's the disappointing thing. And listen, it's not like anybody planned it that way. Sometimes somebody runs out and knocks down some big shots and they get you on your heels a little bit and get the crowd sitting on their hands. And that's what sports are. You've got to be able to retaliate, and you got to be able to come back from behind, especially when you play at home when the NCAA tournament's on the line. So not all hope is lost, but again, we really kind of wasted a golden opportunity to kind of start removing doubt about our tournament worthiness, especially losing to a team like that even with a win over us is still behind us in the standings. You have to win the games you're expected to win. Final segment of the show brought to you by the Stark Vegas Clubhouse, the best place to stay in the Golden Triangle, bar none, when you're bringing a large group to town. And you know what? You should. You've thought about it. You've dreamed about it. Well, let's be about it, right? You could be the linchpin in your friend and family group by making the plans. You just say, hey, listen, here's the availability. Let's all get together and do this. We did and had a blast. Man, we did. It was wonderful. Just to have enough room for everybody to kind of spread out. You don't feel just all on top of each other. It's the old renovated Country Club Clubhouse out past the Highlands off 182, just 5 minutes away from the Mississippi State campus. You can do your tailgating right there. You can use that full-service kitchen, the wet bar, if you choose. The great back porch area, what a great place to just kind of sit and relax a little bit. And that fire pit area is still valuable this time of year. 6 bedrooms, 2 soon to be 3 baths, plenty of parking out there. Now, Google the Stark Vegas Clubhouse, and their Facebook page will auto-populate for you. You'll be glad that you did, and you can peruse all the amenities available to you and your guest. As part of that Google search, you're going to be some booking options. You can book through Airbnb or VRBO, completely up to you. But if you want to save some money, and I believe you do, book through the Evolve website at promo code BSR10. That's BSR, the number 10, 10. That gets you 10% off your stay. Just by listening to the show, you're getting a discount. It's a great, great incentive to listen to the show, but also, too, just to go make some memories with your family. Be sure and do that now more than ever. The Stark Vegas Clubhouse, the best place to stay in the Golden Triangle. All right, let's take a look at our SEC baseball schedule. And I guess before we get into the weekend, let's kind of go over the results from Wednesday night, just in case you missed it, because it was a pretty active night within the league. Things pretty much went to script, though. Not a lot of surprises. Earlier in the week, Cincinnati shut out Auburn at home. That was a surprise. Auburn just can't score. I mean, it's just maybe they'll figure it out, but it's interesting. But back on Wednesday, LSU, number 2 LSU takes care of Nicholls State 12-1. Georgia, 12-6 winners over South Carolina Upstate. South Carolina, 12-2 winners over Gardner-Webb. And, of course, your Bulldogs, 19-0 winners over Alcorn State. Alabama, a bit of a barn burner with Alabama State. The Crimson Tide wins 2-1. Ole Miss pounds Jackson State 18-3. Vanderbilt 16-2 winners over Eastern Michigan. And Florida takes care of Stetson 9-3. Now looking ahead to our weekend. And again, everybody's kind of playing the same level, right? It's just one of those deals, man. It's just one of those deals where this time of year, everybody's trying to get a sense of themselves. Nobody's schedule's really heavy early on. Of course, you had all that stuff the last weekend, those early season tournaments. But Army will be at South Carolina. That may prove to be a more interesting series than I think people appreciate. South Carolina's not that good. Army, well-coached team, as you'd expect. Could be interesting. Indiana at LSU. Now, you want to get LSU in February or March. You really don't want to go play LSU at Alex Box in April and May when the sun is shining and the wind patterns change. It's kind of how things are. It's a launching pad in and of itself. But in April and May, when the weather warms up, the ball really jumps off the bat there. So Indiana, a cooler weather team heading to what should be warmer weather. Maybe Indiana can get one. I don't expect them to win a series, but who knows? Samford will be at Georgia. And, Samford gave Alabama all kind of trouble earlier this week. But at Foley Field, everything is entertaining, right? Everybody goes out there swinging for the fences. And it's one of those deals, too. I guess it's because of the altitude and the short fences. They kind of work in concert together. It seems like everybody kind of finds their stroke in Athens. But Georgia, obviously playing at home with a better talent, should win this series. Don't be surprised if Samford makes it a little bit interesting. Marist at Vanderbilt. This Vanderbilt schedule, they're still trying to figure some things out. But the Vanderbilt pitching should be able to overwhelm the Red Foxes. I just don't think Marist is going to put up much of a fight there. Kentucky will be at Evansville. Again, as Nick Mingione, kind of the RPI master. Evansville, as you guys know, a couple years ago, nearly made it to Omaha. We played them that year, the Purple Aces, and people are like, why are we playing these guys? Well, they take Tennessee to a third game in a super regional. It's a proud program up there. It's just difficult for them to get players. But Kentucky going up there, playing Evansville, is again kind of playing the RPI game, right? They're usually a top 100 RPI. You get bonus points, you play on the road. Kentucky should take this series. Of course, they lost earlier this week to Morehead State. But Xavier, of course, last weekend kind of made things interesting. They're going to beat Arkansas. Now, I think Xavier can put up a little bit of a fight, but you got to like the Razorbacks here. Playing at home, and I thought Arkansas looked pretty good at times last week. A lot of swing and miss in that lineup, though. That's the thing that you want to get rectified before you get into SEC play. And sometimes guys are just pressing a little bit. Guys are trying to do a little bit too much instead of just playing baseball. Dave Van Horn will get them right. They're number 8 in polls right now. So, obviously they're a very talented team. But so much of that is based on pitching. Kent State, the Golden Flashes will be at Tennessee. We mentioned Kent State earlier. They're not a team that makes the regional regularly, but they are a team that's got some measure of mid-major tradition. I still think Tennessee is a team that once we get into SEC play will fade a little bit. I think they'll still be, above 500 or around 500 when it's all said and done, but the schedule's not favorable for them in league play. Coppin State will be at Oklahoma. Of course, Oklahoma, a team that was picked near the bottom of the SEC, goes out and wins that big tournament last weekend, and very impressive in doing so. We expect nothing to slow them down this week as Coppin State rolls into Norman. Rhode Island, URI, will beat Alabama. There was a time that you kind of worried a little bit about URI. Every so often they kind of put some things together. But again, the talent differential should favor Alabama. But, the Crimson Tide offensively is maybe not at all what many people projected. And every year I hear all these national baseball pundits say, Alabama's going to be back, Alabama's going to do this. Alabama's good under Rob Vaughn. And I think he's good enough to get that A&M job. I don't think they're good enough to win a super regional. And I think Justin LeBron obviously is a guy that has to kind of carry things a little bit. There's some pieces around them, but I don't think that Alabama team at this early juncture is what last year was. I think a lot of it's because pitching-wise, maybe they're not as good. They don't have Riley Quick, for one, but that's important. Missouri State's at Ole Miss. Now, Missouri State can swing it a little bit, and they were a veteran team last year, and we got them. I don't know what all they have this year. They're going to go to Oxford. A lot of people are talking about Ole Miss. Arkansas State nearly pulls off the upset, but is it really when Arkansas State under Tommy Raffo used to beat them with a great sense of regularity? But the Bears could make it fun, but you got to like Ole Miss there. Of course, Delaware's at Mississippi State. No surprise there. Missouri will travel to New Haven. You talk about having a difficulty getting jobs and getting gigs. That's one of them. Did you ever think that an SEC team would visit New Haven? This is not trying to play the RPI game. This is just trying to fill out a schedule. And maybe Missouri feels like, hey, we got to find some way to build some confidence, so we got to schedule some wins somewhere. We'll see what happens. But you got to think Missouri should be able to win this one. You got to think that. Kennesaw State, very solid mid-major program. Right there in the one of the most fertile recruiting footprints in the country, in the state of Georgia, against Florida. Kennesaw State obviously has won some NCAA regional games in recent years, so they could maybe go get a game. Maybe. We'll see. Pennsylvania's at Texas A&M. I'm still not sold on A&M. I don't think they'll have any trouble with Penn. I don't think so. But, again, one of those teams that does a pretty good job developing players. They just lose a lot of guys to the portal. A&M with Grahovic and Sorrell should be able to handle this one. Should be a sweep. This was probably not expected to be a big series when the schedule first came out. But Michigan State last weekend went on the road and beat top 10 Louisville 2 out of 3. Could they go get one from Texas? Well, hey, we got some people out there hating on our ranking. It would help us. Let's go sweep, and then Michigan State maybe take a game from Texas. Maybe we can leapfrog over them. But, as I was told many years ago, and it's proven to be correct, the only poll that counts is the last one. And that's the one we want to be number one in. Kansas State at Auburn. I'm just not sure what to expect from Auburn. Now, I don't know what kind of pitching Kansas State has. There have been some times that Kansas State has played pretty well. Just 2 years ago, they won the regional at Arkansas. And that's the year, too. If we'd gotten by Virginia, we felt like we could get to Omaha. Even with a team that had some flaws, we had an opportunity. I would have loved to have played Kansas State at our place. Wouldn't you? Of course you would have. It would have been great. But, guys, Kansas State's 4-0. And it's not like they've played the Mississippi School of Math and Science. They get Iowa. They could play in the MLB Desert Invitational. They beat Iowa, UConn, Penn State, and Air Force. And to be honest with you, most of these games have not been competitive. They beat Penn State 24-5. UConn, a decent mid-major. They get them 7-3. They get Iowa 15-6. So, again, this is an interesting series. And I think if you're Auburn, you got to start thinking about, hey, we got to get some offense from somewhere. And if Kansas State can just pitch it a little bit, they've got a chance to do some interesting things. And yeah, I mean, I'm just looking at the numbers here. I mean, offensively, they're on a heater. As a team, they're hitting almost 400. And, 6 tanks right now, but you wonder out in that desert air how much that mattered. But, from a pitching standpoint, ERAs, the team is about 4.76. And, some guys in the bullpen haven't done quite as well. But, they've got some guys that are going about 5-6 innings deep as starters. Could be interesting. Could be interesting. If Kansas State can generate a little offense, Auburn might be in trouble this weekend. Notre Dame will play LSU on Saturday. LSU's in this little tournament thing with Indiana. So, not sure what Notre Dame's going to have. We know what LSU's going to have. Feel pretty confident about that, right? Don't you? I do. Florida State's going to play Auburn in Game 2. Again, it could be an interesting weekend for Auburn. You'll lose to Kansas State. Florida State's top 20 team as well. And we'll see how that plays out. A little deeper into your weekend schedule here. Central Florida gets OSU. That should be a dub. Should be. Trying to find the other Auburn game. I don't see it. Let's see here. Oh, Auburn plays Louisville on Sunday. Yeah. So, Auburn, interesting weekend. And again, a team that has struggled offensively. And so there's a lot of people out there that have really talked up Auburn in national college baseball media. A lot of people have said, hey, they should be here. They're going to be at Globe Life this weekend and at the Amegy Bank College Baseball Series. So we'll be at Globe Life next weekend. And isn't it great that the Texas Rangers schedule such cool facilities, school ball games at their facilities. But, if you're Auburn, I hate to ever think of a make-or-break weekend. But when you start thinking about what is in front of them in the SEC, and you think about the fact that they're having trouble scoring in non-conference, in 3 games combined, they had the one big blow-up against Youngstown State, right? But they got beat. They won 2-1, 2-1, and got beat 8-0. So in 3 games, they've combined for 4 runs. So, Kansas State, Florida. I mean, you could see a scenario where Auburn goes out there and wins that thing. And you could see a scenario where Auburn goes out there and gets blown out. You got to be able to score runs. And this is a nice little preview. Of course, next weekend we'll be there as well. And, playing Arizona State, Virginia Tech, and UCLA. I mean, we're gonna kind of get a litmus test next week too. But you start looking at this non-conference stuff for Auburn. If you want to host, you better get hot. Of course, they got the home and home with Georgia Tech, which I think is good. But the Auburn schedule, as we went over before, not a cakewalk. Not a cakewalk at all. And they've got some very difficult series on the road. Come to Mississippi State, obviously. They're going to play Florida on the road. They're going to play Alabama, always a rivalry series there. But I think Auburn's a better team. Out of the gate, you get Mizzou, so you feel pretty good about that. You absolutely have to sweep that series. But when you start running through these, kind of what's left besides that, there's not a road series you look at and say, yeah, that's probably one you could get. I think everybody probably sees that for what it is. So we'll see. Big weekend for Auburn, but it's always a big weekend for Mississippi State. And we got to take care of business. And, again, I firmly expect us to. But don't be surprised if that Game 2 is a little bit tighter than you want it to be. It's not necessarily a reflection on us, but you got a pitcher that can throw 4 pitches for strikes and can mix and match a little bit speed-wise. He can keep hitters off balance. He's an older guy. Got his 5th year of eligibility. As I mentioned earlier, Towson State, then Hartford Community College, and in 2 years at Delaware. So he's seen a lot of baseball and played a lot of baseball. And he's a smarter guy. Big guy, too, like 6'5", 230. Right-hander. Kind of relies on that cutter a little bit. So it'll be interesting to see. I think the Friday guy and the Sunday guy, I think we should wax them. I think that's the case. And that's the thing you begin to think about, too. When you get into that Saturday game, how many arms are they willing to commit if the game is a little bit close, and does that kind of open up things on Sunday? I think our pitching depth is much, much better than people anticipated. And again, it's a small sample size. But we're rolling out some young dudes out there throwing 95, 96 and throwing it for strikes. So I think somebody will be an arm that we rely on down the stretch. And I think this weekend, things kind of begin to settle a little bit. But when you start thinking about the depth of this team offensively, think about Noah Sullivan was supposed to take batting practice today. He tweaked the back on Monday, so he misses Tuesday and Wednesday. Of course, he would love to be back this weekend. But the good thing is we don't have to rush him back. Now, he desperately wants to play. He's a competitor. He loves Mississippi State, loves playing at Dudy Noble Field. But we don't have to rush him back. And there have been times in the past that we've had some injuries, and it just derails the season. And you think about the fact that you throw Jacob Parker out there as a freshman, and he puts the ball on the bat. And then Vitas Valenkas. How do you keep him off the field? Like you didn't. Bryce Chance started in right last night, didn't start the night before. What do you do in the outfield? You're not going to sit Aiden Teal. Do you sit Nunnally? I don't know. But if I'm thinking about Vitas Valenkas, I got to get him in there. Maybe he's your DH on Friday if Noah Sullivan can't go. But the best part about it is you've got more talent than you've got spots in the lineup. So you have depth where there's not a big drop-off. And how many times have we been there before? We have to trot some freshmen out there and just kind of hope for the best. The roster composition this year in Brian O'Connor year one is elite. And when you go back and you look at how great the sophomore pitching class is, and then the freshmen behind them, you really begin to kind of figure in that we got so many guys like Foster, McPherson, and Valenkas that are not going to be draft eligible this year. It sets up even better for next year because these young freshmen, Parker Rhodes and Maddox Miller and Tanner Bellevue and those guys and more, Jack Bauer, you get all those guys back next year? I mean, come on. You start working through that aspect of it, and you begin to realize that the seeds for a run, not just a season, have been planted. That's an exciting element for us. So hopefully you'll get out and watch the Bulldogs play this weekend. No matter where they are, we encourage you to go spend time with the Bulldogs. For those of you in South Texas, maybe go over there and cheer for the ladies out in Austin. And for those of you in the Columbia, South Carolina area that aren't making your way here, go support the men there. But everybody else, we'll see you at Dudy Noble Field. Right? Super, super good times. And I said this months ago, and I still believe this to be true. I believe we are about to enter an era of Mississippi State baseball that we have only dreamed of. I think this year is just the opening act. But I think when you begin to think about the roster depth from a positional standpoint and the emerging depth at the pitching standpoint, this team's capable of winning a lot of baseball games. If you hadn't done so, go to DudyNobleBook.com. You get signed copies of all my sports titles. That includes Flim Flam, Stark Villains, Alpha Dogs, Dogpile, and The Dude, along with the personal memoir, When the Bottom Falls. I would encourage you to check that one out, whether you're in recovery or not. Put a lot of my heart and soul in that thing. Come float with us at True Rest Floats by Starkville. You can speak directly to Dana at 662-268-7601. She can answer any questions you have about floating. She's a registered nurse, so she knows how the medical profession works. And that's one of the reasons we did this, is she could stay in wellness, but not have that challenging schedule of working nights at the hospital, which she did forever and a day. And walking those hospital floors kind of gave her some low back pain. I'm sure running trails didn't help either. But by floating regularly, she has eliminated that low back pain, which is incredible. And it's also cured her insomnia. And I can tell you, too, the older she got, and I mean this with a compliment, the more difficult it was for her to recover working nights. So even when she was off the next night, I mean, it was difficult. I mean, she's just kind of stayed in bed all day. Just never really felt up and had the energy to do things. But by floating, her body has been rejuvenated. And I was trying to get in there and float earlier this week, and it just wasn't time for me to get in there. And so we encourage you, reach out to her, or you can schedule online. And again, if you're a new floater, you have to be there 30 minutes at a minimum early, because there's some paperwork you have to fill out, a video you have to watch, some instructions we have to go through with you. And come join us over at genespage.com. No waiver required there. You just go ahead and sign and just start reading to your heart's content, and join us over on the VIP message boards. It's always a great time to join genespage.com. The longest running, the largest, and most successful Mississippi State media company in the history of the university. Period. We take a lot of pride in that. I think we got 14, 15 stories today. I think it's, I don't know, just a random Thursday, right? And of course, we'll be right back out at Duty Noble Field on Friday and carry you all the way through the weekend. We'll have coverage, of course, of every Bulldog baseball game throughout the year, home, away, midweek, whatever you want. We're going to be there, being your eyes and ears throughout the college baseball season. And can't wait for spring football to start, too. I'm just kind of ready to see what this team looks like. This time last year, we were eager to see our transfers on the field. We were pleasantly surprised by some, and some others absolutely confirmed that they were who we thought they were. A lot of belief that this portal class is better than last year. And you return a strong nucleus of players. And so we feel like this year should be a winning season on the field, but I'm ready to see them in person and ready to see them on the field. But there's a lot of work that's got to be done between now and the season opener. That's going to do it for today. But until next time, let's all live our lives in a way we make more friends than enemies, and people can see a difference in the way we live.